Well, Bethany, I never thought that I'd be doing a podcast with you in a cemetery.
Yeah, not a very normal place to be doing a podcast, huh?
No, but I think it's important to be here because, I mean, it just reminds us of the topic we're dealing with, and that's
Yeah.
death. Not just the headstones and the graves, but look at those trees. I mean,
Yeah,
they're lifeless, right? And
right.
so, as people see us and see this, I'm sure it's reminding you of some loss that you've experienced in your life. Or maybe right now you're facing some challenges that remind you of your own mortality. The reason we brought you here is because this is a place that we try to avoid,
Yeah.
and not talk about, and obviously not visit, but in one way or another, it's something all of us are going to face in our lives.
Yeah.
The topic of death that we've been talking about.
Yeah. So being here right
Yeah.
now, how's it making you feel?
Well, I would say a combination of things. It's making me feel sad on the one hand, and I know it sounds weird, but glad on the other hand.
Okay, well, why sad?
Because I'm thinking of mom and dad, your grandma and grandpa that passed away not that long ago. I'm thinking about my brother, 4 years younger than me, that passed away recently, and the sadness is the loss.
Mm-hmm.
The sadness is the memories, the times that we had together, and the sadness is also the fact that all three of them passed away with lots of pain, lots of suffering due to
Right.
cancer. In Grandpa's case, he had heart problems, and it was really a struggle at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't one of those quick, easy, you're swept away in the middle of the night while you're
Right.
sleeping. It was one of those
Right.
long suffering
Yeah.
ordeals, right?
Yeah. I'm glad though, on the other hand, because we look back here and I mean, yeah, there's death symbolized in so many
Mhm.
things, but the Bible says that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So I see a blue sky and some beautiful white clouds up there, and I'm reminded of where they really are, right? And that's because of our faith in God and who Jesus is and what He did for us. This is just kind of where we leave our bodies behind.
Right.
But it's still hard, and Grandma struggled a lot. She could be so strong for people.
Mm-hmm.
Like when her sister passed away, she was so full of faith and encouragement. But man, when it came time for her own exit from this world, she really struggled. She started to doubt God, and part of it was because she believed in healing. She asked in prayer for God to heal her. And I remember she confided to me once. She just said, I'm afraid to die. I feel like it's going to be suffocation of my soul. So that was really hard.
Well, sometimes it's easier to be strong for other people.
Right.
You've done it throughout your life, taking care of so many people. And then when it's your turn
Right.
and you're struggling, that's when sometimes those fears and weakness come out.
Yeah.
I remember when she had just made that transition to hospice, I decided to come out and see her with my 2 elementary age kids. You know, a lot of people are like, well, why would you do that? Why would you bring kids to such a sad situation to experience the passing of a loved one and around so much sadness, sickness? And for me, I noticed in our culture how we're so afraid of death, dying, illnesses. Sometimes people who are aging, you know, it's like, oh, because that represents something about the end, right? So with my kids, I decided that's something I want them to interact with differently. So since they were toddlers, I started taking them to a nursing home so they could get used to being around people who are sick and who have illnesses and
or the end
difficulties.
stage of their lives. Right.
So because my kids had that experience, I felt comfortable bringing them to grandma's bedside while she was on the hospice, and they did really well there. I remember growing up, one of grandma's favorite things was singing and playing along to old hymns. My kids know some of those old hymns, so I let them know this is a way that they could help grandma through her passing, give her some peace and be a blessing. So I just remember telling them, just hold her hand, be next to her, and sing those songs. And you could just see that it would give her peace, even though she wasn't able to really talk or
but
communicate.
she calmed
anymore.
down when they did that.
For sure. So, you know, that was a good experience for the kids to have too, to learn that death, although it's sad, you can also help come alongside people and be a blessing and see goodness in it.
And then there's Grandpa.
That was
you know, he was quite a character. He survived Grandma by several years, and you know, I remember when I was growing up, he would always talk about dying, how he wanted to die. In fact, I think that's probably what caused your grandma just not to want to deal with it. But when he saw Grandma suffer and then realized that God wasn't going to heal her or take her quickly, he became angry at God. I mean, really angry at God to the point of almost doubting God because of all that. And so, you know, when it came his turn, you know, with all his heart problems and diabetes and everything that was going on in his body, man, that was really hard. You know, he really struggled. And for me, as a son and the primary caretaker, it was just a challenge, you know, how to deal with that. But I so appreciated when you showed up because you took a load off me for a while to kind of get my head straight, trying to help him out.
Yeah, and I think it's important as family members to realize what your strengths are, how you can come alongside each other and help. There's a lot of things going on at the end of life. And I knew that I was comfortable with hospice, understanding the process. So that was a time I could step in, be with Grandpa, help him along that journey, making decisions, and let you have a little bit of respite and rest so you could come back in and take over at the very end. And I had some nice conversations with Grandpa. I saw him improve his behavior and his attitude when I was there. I saw him desire to be that grandfatherly figure.
That's because granddaughter was there,
so I mean, it did help his demeanor as well. And the reminder for him that although he's getting to the end and ready to leave this earth, he was still leaving behind this spiritual legacy within his son, his children, his grandchildren, and even his great-grandchildren. So I think that was a good reminder for him and a blessing at the end to be reminded of that.
I think one of the powerful things too, Bethany, when you were around and when the grandkids were around, I think it communicated to both Grandma and Grandpa that their life may be ending here biologically, but in another sense, it's ongoing because their lives are extended through their children and great grandchildren and you know down the road, so to speak. So I think it kind of energized them in a way to have that sense of peace. But boy, you know, it was hard. It was hard to go through all of that.
So after dealing with all of these other family members who have passed, do you have any fears about the end of life, about death?
That's a great question to ask in the cemetery. Thank you very much. I guess to be honest, I mean, on the one hand, I don't, right? Because I realize that even though it's dark, the blue sky reminds me of where I'm going to be, right? So I look, I realize my life at some point is going to end. It could be in the next second, or it could be 10 years, who knows, right? But I know as I get older, that becomes a greater reality. And as I see more of my peers, or like my younger brother passing away, it does remind me, as I already said, about my mortality.
Right.
So I'm excited about ending this journey and starting a new journey.
Okay.
But I got to be honest with you, I'm a little bit fearful about the process.
Okay.
Right? Having watched people suffer and what it does. So that's part of why we're doing this podcast, is we want to help people work through this, not just those who are perhaps immediately facing death, but family and loved ones who will go on this journey with people. If there's something from our experience that can be a blessing and help, that's why we're doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into more about these fears.
But I have a question for you.
Oh, no.
Obviously you're younger, so you're
Yeah.
standing here. How about you? Are you afraid of death?
I think we need more time to answer that question. Let's go back to the studio.
All right, let's do that.